And now, Pujya Atman Shri Swami Jyotirmayananda commences tonight's satsang with a Sanskrit-based chant.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with a mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda and Rajneesh.
Our song tonight is called Beloved Guru. We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujyatman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda in Miami, Florida. Today is August the 8th, 2020, Saturday evening. Tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is series 2018, class number 87. And now Pujyatman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, and bestower of immortality. Chapter 8, Akshar Brahma Yoga, the yoga of imperishable Brahman. It's not a recent news. Brahman is the absolute self. And presently, verse number 24. But even before I commence, I will have Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number is 24. Agnir Jyotirha Shukla Sadmasha Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahmavido Jana. This is very condensed wisdom. The essence of all religions, the entire process from beginning to end, from bondage to release, is presented in a profoundly allegorical manner. And this we have touched upon it many times, and it will continue to be repeated again and again. Each time you listen, you have to clean up the ear a little bit. First word is Agni, fire. This whole world you must view as fire. You are near an explosive mountain, Jwalamukhi. And therefore, you always hear about the word tapas, 3 tapas. Physical, all the troubles of the physical body, and there are plenty of them. I don't have to count them. They are bigger than the universe. All the physical problems. Now the problems from the world around you, starting from your own family, near and dear ones, and then extending into your nation and the nations of other countries. And you can go on developing that. Then they are not only human beings, they are birds, animals, and even the minute bacteria and viruses, and they are worst. They are adhi-bhautik trouble. First trouble called adhyatmik. Second one is adhi-bhautik. Third one is adhi-daivik. How the Earth planet is facing problems in a universal setup. And from very ordinary point of view, what's called act of God. Hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, all these are troubles. So when you look at the world, you are looking at troubles, not double, triple trouble. But this type of understanding should be based on your spiritual maturity, not a mental limitation, not on the basis of ordinary despair and frustration. This is a highly healthy state of mind, to understand the goal, the mind that turns towards who am I, what is my real purpose, and where am I? Am I close to that purpose? Should I be fulfilled in the world with these 3 tapas? One volcanic eruption is before you, behind you. Another tsunami is waiting to do salam for you. Simple words, Vairagya. Vairagya is not developing in your personality. You are a child, you are constantly playing with toys. And there will come a time to understand that toys are not boys and girls have to go into school. Not stay with toys. So with that insight, the growing process becomes purposeful. So that Vairagya is the characteristic of your spiritual growth. And that's the most profound characteristic. And that's an internal qualification. How much Vairagya you have, nobody can by looking to your face. You have to understand that. If you have joint pains, nobody can look at it from a distance and say, oh, that much pain you have. So, I'm giving you in a witty way to understand. Vairagya is internal. Yes, if you are spiritually sensitive, then you will understand because there is a heart communication. Therefore, you are in a better position to understand whether a person is acting to be a Vairagi, but really he is not. If a person is going in a hypocritical way, you can easily understand if you have inner spiritual sensitivity. But without going to further details, Agnir, first characteristic, Vairagya. Second, this is described allegorically like a whole path, starting with fire. Next, Jyoti, light. Light relates to Viveka Buddhi, shining understanding. Vivek term is defined by your deep understanding of difference between self and not self. And that understanding goes on growing more and more. When you dream, during dream, you are lost in your dream. You have no idea that all things you are handling in your dream have no reality. But just like during dream, you have two processes to go on. Either you stay with your dream, eating your cream, I'm joking, or come to realize that everything in your dream is not real. Put it in a very simple way, try to understand you are not the body. Body is an instrument. You are not the pranas, vital forces. You are not the senses. You are not the mind, not the intellect, not the ego, not the entire mental process. You are the self. All that changes and all that perishes in course of time, that's not self. And you are the eternal self. That type of understanding is Vivek. When Vairagya and Vivek begin to develop in your life, daily life, your life is not lived in vain. When you are living your life just compelled by karma and creating new karmas which are going to put you in worse frustrating situations than you experienced before, then you are not living a life. Your every day opens up not with a sense of joy. Your day opens up with a sense of inner delight. Whenever I'm talking about delight, don't interpret it in a very superficial way. It simply implies you may face your day with challenges. You may not be delighted from morning till evening. But no matter how you are moving in your life, with adversity, with prosperity, internally you don't feel you are wasting your time. There is that type of sense that all this has a purpose, and all this will pass away. And you are being led to your essential nature, Aham Brahmasmi. I've said all this quickly, but if that sense develops, and in order that you come to that state, integral yoga must become normal in your daily life. Normal implying that you must not ignore any part of your personality. And you always remember 4 aspects of your personality: karma, action, all type of practical activities that you must be involved in. That your emotions, what type of emotions, feelings allow your heart to feel delighted with. And sometimes your heart has developed a negative addiction, the addiction to pain. So, same situation that can be viewed in a positive way, your heart views it in a negative way. That you can see easily by misunderstanding and understanding. You meet a very loving person with misunderstanding, and you have a different feeling in your heart. Same person with good understanding, you have a different feeling. So, I'm describing you that state of dealing, allowing your feelings to blossom. That's a path of bhakti, devotion. So you have path of karma, path of devotion, path of meditation, Raj Yoga. That's the will aspect in your personality. You have some understanding what you want, but your will is like your feet movement. If your feet do not move firmly, but if your feet begin to bounce, you cannot attain the goal. You get into bigger trouble. So therefore, your will has to be under control. It should not go under swill. And how much will has been controlled, there is no limit. So that type of yoga is called Dhyana Yoga, also Raj Yoga. And the climax of yogic movement is jnana, perfect wisdom, wisdom not intellectual, but realization. So when these four chords of your personality begin to be harmonized, instead of pursuing melodies after melodies, you pursue melody after melody and become mellow. So that's called aha. Shukla. Now come another stage. As life come to be enriched by vairagya, viveka, and your persistent practice of integral yoga. Now the window within your heart begins to open. Heart is like a big cave that has been closed, but has many things within the heart. And things that are being experienced, they are being experienced with mohadrishti. Mohadrishti means just things illumined within the cave of your heart are illumined not by the sun, but glowworms. The light is so limited that you don't really know what's going on in your heart. Now a window opens, and as if the light begins to come, pour into your heart. It is described in a poetic way. You consider your heart like the sky, firmament. And now you begin to experience waxing moon, the joy within your heart increasing more and more. Now what happens is beyond your imagination. Sanamasha Uttarayanam. For 6 months, allegorically talking about this, the solar northern path of the sun. It has nothing to do with the study of astronomy, but it's allegorical. Just like Uttarayana Marg, the northern course, just to give you a simple reference, starts from the end of December to end of June, more or less. And what is the characteristic of this northern path? Each day, the period of daylight increases as you go, day after day, until it reaches the climax. If you are gripped by karma, you're not being a yogi, just karmic, gripped by karma, you are unable to experience expansion in your consciousness. Expansion in your consciousness let me use very practical words people use. Create a dimension within your personality. If you don't create dimension, you have dementia. But that applies to a very practical level, practical reality. But I'm giving a spiritual touch to it. If you do not allow your inner life to enjoy expansion, Godward movement, always your life is involved with the world of constant change, constant insecurity, constant fear, constant stress. What are you expecting? Dementia. So that's what we meant by after bright half of the lunar month, 6 months of the northern course of the sun. Pursuing the northern path. They who know Brahman go to Brahman. So the entire positive movement has been described. And today I have to walk around a little. The verse has the last statement, pursuing the northern path. They who know Brahman, go to Brahman. This is knowledge as the highest state. To know Brahman is to become Brahman. That again is allegorical statement. To know Brahman means revelation of who am I. To know Brahman is not to get anything else but your own self that you have misunderstood for a long time. So therefore, it is better to say you become Brahman. To know is to become. If you know and remain the same, it's not becoming knowledge. It doesn't become you. To know Brahman and stay like a ordinary person. The other path, first path, Uttarayana, that's the ideal to follow. The other path, Dakshinayana. Uttarayana is also known as Devayana path, the divine path. Dakshinayana is Pitriyana, implying you go to the world of forefathers. Where do the forefathers do? Having spent their heavenly experience, they come back. And that process goes on, cycle of birth and death. But even this path, Dakshinayana, is not the worst path. There are three paths there. Third path is Yatana Marg. Lord Krishna doesn't even mention it. It doesn't require any explanation. Yatana Marg, the path to hell. Also you must understand, whenever we talk, you always, as if you are focused on what will happen after you die. But that again is allegorical. What will happen in your very life? The same continues after your death. If you are positive in your life, after death the positivity continues. If you have attained the goal in your life, after death that goal continues to be whole. And even in your life, you don't have to wait after death to suffer from hell. Hell suffering goes on. So that's a mature way to understand the point. Otherwise, you're thinking, oh, this is after I would die. So at least you are free from all these problems. So now let's turn to what will happen if you are following the path not of a hell, but for health, long life, peace, prosperity, and all types of blessings. If you are following the path for these points, then you will be pursuing the path known as Dakshinayana. Which is not entirely bad. It's like going into a smoky going to your destination through smokes. At least you have started there. In other words, just to give you a simple way to understand, when you have virtuous karmas backing you up, you will be following the southern course, which will not destroy the virtuous power, but which will provide you with more opportunity, not only this life, but next life and next life. But each succeeding life will be better than before. And also it will place you in a situation of switching your attention from Preya to Shreya. So that state where your mind has not figured out Shreya, that state enriched by virtuous karmas, that's the basis, that's the qualification for the southern path. Southern path is presented allegorical way like the southern course of the sun. When the daylight begins to diminish more and more until you have the shortest day. Dhumo ratri tatha Krishna shanmasha dakshinayanam tatra chandramasam jyotir yogi prapya nivartate. The other yogis who depart, they are also termed as yogis. Those who are not yogis, they are bhogis or rogis. Bhogis, just living for. Eat, drink, be merry. Pleasures of the senses, that's called bhogi. Rogi, patient. Patient living in a big hospital. The whole world process. Now, so if you are not bhogi or rogi, you are yogi. But now you have two possibilities. Being a yogi, you will put yourself in better situation, not degrading. And if you are perfect yogi, then you are not just putting yourself into a normally positive position, but you are flying, you are soaring into extraordinary expansion. Now this path is characterized by smoke. Smoke is all allegorical. The mind of the previous one, as you advance, your body ages and your body will drop. But even though the body ages, your wisdom does not age, is youthens. Because your wisdom is not dependent upon your body. So, for one who is following Uttarayana, the path lights up. And there is clarity. One who is following Dakshinayana, whatever clarity you had before, that clarity becomes confused. Just like a smoke has started developing, a foggy atmosphere has come. So that's the first characteristic of your southern path, smoke. Next comes night. This path also has, allegorically speaking, a sense of comfort. Since you have smoked too much, you don't see the frightening demons waiting for you. And night becomes all things that you need to understand, they are out of your sight. You are sinking in your ignorance. Next, the dark half of the lunar month. It means you are enjoying the moon in your heart, but the moon is waning, lesser and lesser. The feeling that lights up your personality, that feeling is dwindling. With aging personality, that quality of love that made your life so bright, that quality of love begins to get into confusion. And then, whatever dimension you had before, which made you flexible, flexibility, dimension, feeling of expansion, all these are synonyms. Now all that begins to diminish. You don't have that expansion. And that's presented by the allegorical picture of 6 months of the southern course, increasing waning of the moon, and increasing shortening of daylight. And finally, where does the person, they reach the world of the moon. Here the world of the moon is not the moon as we speak in a very positive way, like Ramachandra, the moon-like face of Rama. Not that moon. Here moon implies that which shines by the light of the sun, that does not have its own light. All pleasures of the world don't have their own light. They are shining by the light of your soul through your vasanas. Subtle desires polish the objects of the world. Some become likable, some are dislikable, some you are neutral, you don't have like and dislike. But all that is caused by your love for your very self. And you don't realize it. When things give you so much happiness, people, objects, what is giving you happiness is your own self. Reflecting, when you polish something in such a way that you look into it and you are seeing your own face. The subtle desires polish things and make you develop a deluded understanding that this is the source of my greatest love. But that type of love is moha. You can't secure it and you cannot be very sure about it. And you are constantly frustrated by it. Now let me give you further detail about it. This is a general characteristic of southern path. Mind being more, your soul being more and more involved in illusory happiness, not real happiness. Real happiness inspires you. It encourages you to follow the steps leading to liberation. Pleasures of the senses, they fill you with such perspiration that you want to go down to have some coolness. I'm joking. That degrades you. And broad point of view, as long as you are securing your existence in the world of time and space, you can be a great person, great yogi, but your attitude is keeping you confined to the cycle of birth and death. If you are in that state, what I'm leading you to understand, in people who follow Dakshinayana, there are two types of people. Those who will be born after death in the family of yogis. Those who will be born in the family of the rich and prosperous. Both possibilities come when you are following the southern path. Because you are following southern path led by sakamya karma. Karma is done with the attitude of gaining some reward out of it, fruit of karma. You also, let me make you understand that when you read these scriptures, you find two types of personalities. Most people go to heaven and enjoy heavenly pleasure. Heaven is described giving you lot of dance, etc., and lot of wonderful enjoyment day by day. And now they are fulfilled until they suddenly drop out of the heaven. Then you have to go through the same world process. But there are other people, you read the scriptures, the king Dasharatha, he goes to heaven not to take part in the enjoyment of heaven, but to help Indra to secure his status from the forces of darkness, from demoniac forces. And there are many stories in Mahabharata that people go to heaven as friend of Indra and they come back from heaven as virtuous personalities. So if you have that type of switch in your personality, You will be going to the same Dakshinayana, same Indraloka, same goal. But you will not stay limited. Having gone to Indraloka, King Dasharatha came to another state of becoming the father of Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna. Most profoundly, the way to understand, these are the 4 yogas personified with perfection. शुक्ल कृष्णे गति ह्येते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम अन्यया वर्तते पुनः. These 2 paths, the path of light and that of smoke, are considered beginningless. You never ask the beginning because that's the most stupid thing to ask. You are dreaming and suddenly became alert, clever. He invited a group of your friends. Let's work out when did this world begin? Each one has a different view. One says million years. So, oh no, trillion. Another says, why trillion? Why not another billion? I'm joking. But no matter how clever answer you get while dreaming, you wake up and all your question answers have no purpose at all. That's called like stupid. Your goal is to wake up, not to count your illusion. Your goal is to turn away from mirage, not to count every drop of the mirage water. So therefore, the study of these paths is meant to lead you, meant to inspire you to follow the northern path, leading to liberation. The path following which you will not return to the world of smoke. No more smoke, no smoking. Prohibited. And with this we'll conclude for now. Om Shri Krishnaya Namah. Om Shri Krishnaya Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om. And prayer for the shower of Karunamaya Ras, grace of God, for alleviating sufferings and leading every soul with the blessings of Shakti and Bhakti, strength, spiritual strength. When you go on gaining it, you are not living in vain. Life will be similar. Challenges will be there. Ups and downs will be there. But gain strength by your daily prayer, japa, satsanga, acts of charity, in brief, integral yoga. That's called Shakti. And you will be surprised You will face your challenges in such a way that as if they are not challenges, they are joyous adventures. That's called saras. And that's the biggest quality there is bhakti, love of God, and leading to mukti. Mukti is your ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is your own self. Who am I? A perfect revelation of I am, that am I. And when you have accomplished pursuing this, death virus will not touch you. I'm not talking about ordinary viruses. Mortality virus, mrityu virus. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukum Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshyamamritat Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Are there any questions? Swamiji, I have a question. What is really meant when the scripture says that the reward, so to speak, is being born in the house of yogis, in a family of yogis, or the rich and prosperous? Doesn't seem like it allows enough possibilities for good people.
No, it's not a question of, this is a question of practical fact that all virtuous souls, they have different psychology. There are people who are doing many good deeds, but their psychology is that because they have done it, God will reward them. And so they are working for being prosperous. They will be born in prosperous families, but suppose their virtue has tricked them, they have become more powerful than their early stage of performing virtue. So even when you have aimed at being prosperous, you come into a prosperous family, but you don't get the rus of prosperity. Buddha, for example, who could be more very prosperous. So, but then there are other yogis who don't require this type of challenge of going. Buddha had big challenges. There are yogis who come like Nachiketa, who come practically enlightened in the very early stage. So both types of yogis are described. When you study scriptures, you study all aspects. So that most ideal yogis don't work for going into prosperity aspect. They go after a yogic family. Be born in a family where people can teach you Hanuman Chalisa, Ramayana, listening to the scriptures and Vedanta. If that is from your very childhood the food of wisdom, that's the highest ideal. So that's what.
And when you find aspirants, even aspirants that we all know that are neither born in a prosperous family nor in a particularly virtuous family, but they themselves are carrying a karma for
Now again,
profound
when we describe this, you shouldn't get into a complete mathematics.
Okay.
Because everyone can be described as prosperous or simply virtuous. Even in the middle class, one person has daily milk supply, another person has difficulty even to have the practical. So from his point of view, that one is prosperous.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so Swamiji will join us on Tuesday and Wednesday for Yoga Vishishta. And before we conclude, I'd like to share with you a very, very short quote from Mother Teresa that was superimposed on a beautiful nature video I was seeing today. She said, "Go into the world today and love every person you meet. Let your presence bring new light to the light in the hearts of others."